Yeah, hi, it's Jackie here from the LGFA, and it's the last show of the year. It's the big one, the TG4 All-Ireland Finals special, and I'm joined by two guests here today, Caoimhe Marley Morgan, former Armagh star, and former Waterford ace. Michelle Ryan is also with me on today's call. How are you, folks? The dream team?
All
Yeah,
good,
we're
thanks,
good.
Jackie.
Good to see you guys. So let's get stuck straight into it, right? So we're going to have the 50th senior final on Sunday in LGFA history. It's Dublin against Kerry. They've never met in a final before at senior level. And at halftime, just to let people know as well, we're going to parade the previous winning captains from the 49 years previously. So it's a real sense of occasion. And once that ball is thrown in on Sunday between Dublin and Kerry, there can only be one winner. Caoimhe Marley Morgan, you are quite adamant, or have been, that Kerry are going to win this. Are you still in a similar train of thought ahead of Sunday's game?
I like to stick with what I backed from the start, so I am going to stay with it. But before we just came live there, Michelle and I were having a wee chat, and like we've both been looking at the stats, and I mean, for the 50th year, it has the recipe to be an unbelievable game. The stats are so close. Like on average, Dublin have scored 213, Kerry have scored 212 per game. So, I mean, looking at that alone, if you look at the top scorers, Carla Rowe and Louise Murray have both scored 20. Well, Louise scored 214 and Carla scored 48. So both 20 points as such together. It's so close to call. From the semi-final, that's what we have to kind of look at and go by at the minute. Kerry beating Mayo, Dublin beating Cork. They were very, good encounters to watch, and I kind of feel that Dublin are peaking at the right time as well. So that's why it leads it to be a really good recipe. I think it's going to be quite a physical encounter. And there'll be things that both teams will have looked at in each other. If you look at the Cork match, Dublin are very, very quick to slow down momentum. They fouled Cork 35 times to slow the ball down. So, obviously, Kerry will have their homework done on that. It'll depend a lot on the refereeing on the day as well. Both teams are so well conditioned, and me personally, I like a physical game. I know McBohan does as well, but within the rules as such too. We have to play by that, and we want a really good display of football. So on the whole, I'm definitely, I'm going to stick with my Kerry guns here. But I think it'll be a really, really close one, and it's fitting for the 50th year because it shows how ladies football has progressed, and as you say, at halftime, the captains will be paraded. And I was looking through the list and the rolls of honour there, and oh my God, it's unreal to look at how many teams have been represented over the years and what a special occasion it is. And that means that, everybody should get out and support everyone here because it's a day for everyone.
It's going to be really special. Michelle, I'm going to turn to you on the senior game as well. Is it very simplistic to kind of look at a line of form and say, Kerry's probably biggest problems this year, it's not probably, they have come against Cork, whereas Dublin dismantled Cork in the semi-final. But, you could argue that both teams were different times of the year, and maybe that defeat in the Munster final against Cork for Kerry was the proverbial kick in the whats that they needed to get moving again in this championship. Where do you stand on a line of form, or does it really matter?
I think that's the tricky one, and that's been the tricky thing about this entire championship, as form hasn't been consistent really by any side. You're right, Kerry have only succumbed to Cork, and I would have argued back then, start of the championship, I picked Kerry and Cork as being probably the two top teams that I could see going forward in the championship. But Cork had just come off the back of finishing a league very strongly, going into a Munster campaign and completing that pretty strongly as well. And the setback was obviously their loss to Galway. And to my mind, they peaked in the Munster championship and then seemed to go back a bit, if you ask me. And then you look at Dublin, and Caoimhe is absolutely right. Their form is peaking now at the crucial time of the year. And they dismantle Cork. They systematically dismantle them from start to end. And that's where this is quite difficult. Looking at stats, looking at performances, knowing who's got the real upper hand. I as well predicted Kerry at the start of the season, and it's just so tough. The closer this game is getting, the more my head is telling me there's a serious danger here in Dublin, and it's kind of the sentimental Kerry haven't won it in since 1993, and there's a group of players there that have done serious development in the last even 2 or 3 years and what they've been through, and then you have, I suppose, the machine that is Dublin, and knowing this experience, knowing what it takes, being able to dig deep within the management structure and the players, and still have incredible leaders. Even though it is a different look Dublin team to a degree, you still have some of even the Sinead Ahern on the bench, coming off the bench and having that in the dressing room. So I think there is grit after being seen by both sides. I'm struggling seriously to predict a winner. And I mean, I know at the times that I've been asked in the last week or so, I've even said a draw, because my gut instinct isn't kicking in just yet. I think maybe I would like to stick with Kerry, but I have a real fear that Dublin, for Kerry, that Dublin can really turn up on the day on Sunday.
Where will it be won and lost? I was listening to a very interesting conversation yesterday on Off the Ball, previewing the final. They were talking about the impact of the two goalkeepers and how highly rated they are and how young they are also. High press on the kickouts. If you go too high, you can be bypassed. They're both very, very accurate with their kickouts. And then you're going into midfield where you have Louise Galvin and Lorraine Scanlon up against two, more youthful Dublin players in Jennifer Dunn and Eilish O'Dowd. But then again, I mean, there's so many imponderables to this game, as Michelle says. The closer it comes, I'm struggling to split them. But I suppose it's a very, very open question for you. Where will it be won and lost, or what's your hunch, or how do you see this panning out?
Well, look, we can talk about stats, and I suppose in preparing for something like this, that's what we have to go by. But, I spoke to Michelle about this. It'll be on the day. So it'll be how the players respond on the day. So how calm they will keep themselves, when maybe their back's against the wall, or, when they need to change things. Because when you're playing on Croke Park in All-Ireland final days, it doesn't really matter what's going on in the periphery or outside. You don't actually hear the people next to you. So like if you're playing full back, you won't hear the person in cornerback trying to give you instruction. So it's who will adapt best on that day. I think a lot will be won and lost on the line probably as well. So you have the experience of Mick Bohan there, who can very quickly adapt to different types of situations. And when I looked at the tactics of both kind of teams, Kerry are a very attack-minded team. They don't always set up so defensively, whereas I feel, and I don't want to be contradicting myself and who I predict to win this game, but I feel that Dublin have set themselves up in different games in various different strategies. So they're used to having to deploy a defensive mode if they need to, and they can attack as well. So it'll be how Kerry will combat what Dublin decide to do as well on that day, whilst also trying to play your own game. So they'll all have their homework done, and that's the first rule of management, who you're going to pin against your top players and who's going to nullify other players. The experience that Dublin have and the experience they have coming on off the bench, as Michelle has alluded to, will be a massive boost to them as well. But then Kerry are playing with the hurt as well of last year, and they have a big point to prove. And I think things are coming nicely. Things are prepared nicely within the county. They are quite calm in their demeanour. So I don't know whether it'll be a game that's won and lost on the pitch as such. I think it'll be how maybe management will adapt to different situations that other teams will deploy.
Michelle, how will the Kerry management go about preparing their players psychologically and mentally? Caoimhe talks about the hurt of that final defeat last year. That can probably work a couple of ways. It can drive you to unbelievable new heights, or if it's in the melting pot down the stretch, maybe some of the old ghosts from the past start to rear their heads as well. And I suppose Dublin, when they last contested a final against Meath in 2021, they lost it as well. So it's not like they're coming into this without a huge lack of motivation either, albeit they have probably less of or more of a transition of players compared to Kerry. Again, it's another imponderable, Michelle, but if you're Darragh Long and Declan Quill, what way are you playing this week?
do you know what? I think maybe therein lies the winning of the game for Kerry, because I read an article from by the Kerry managers only this morning, and they were talking about the All-Ireland final last year and the fact that maybe just their style of play got lost when Meath really challenged them and pushed them to the point where it was, you know, decision or not, and to go for it or not, and they kind of lost their style of play a little bit. And I think, having watched them this year, there is a little bit more assurance in their play. There is a lot of consistency. They're not changing much game to game. They're sticking to how they know to win those games. And when they are tested on Sunday, and they will be tested on Sunday, as to whether they revert back to maybe just kind of on the spot, individual kind of play, maybe a style that hasn't been the way they've been going all year, that could be the breaking or making of them, if you ask me. They need to trust in how they've been playing this year. At the end of the day, they've beaten Dublin twice this year, playing that style. They've beaten incredible opposition in the likes of Meath, in the likes of Mayo, Dublin already, as I said. You know, they've come across serious tests in this championship. And by sticking to how they play, that free-flowing ball up the pitch, getting it up there quick, the supply into the full forward line, they've scored, if you count the Munster Championship and All-Ireland series, they've scored 15 goals. And Dublin are the only team around them to nearly match that with 17. If they can stick with that and have their workers work back, work hard, you know, they've people burst their I suppose, counter-attack is crucial. It really is crucial. Now, on the other side of that, like if you look at the semi-final with Dublin, Dublin are brilliant at spreading that play. They have their wing forwards hugging that touchline. Caoimhe O'Connor. I mean, Orla Nolan was central the last day. And if I'm honest, it was only through watching back that match again that I realised how much possession she was on, how many strings she was pulling. So they're great at separating out for their own kickouts when their defence has the ball, and then cutting directly up through the heart. Jennifer Dunn off the shoulder and going right through the middle. And Cork weren't able for that. They weren't able to stop that. They weren't able to shore up, and they didn't change tack on that either. Kerry have numbers back there, and it's about taking responsibility to shore that area up and put that pressure on and rely on that counter-attack. Now, there's no doubt Louise Muir-Hertig is going to be incredibly well marshalled on Sunday. We all know that. More than likely, Leah Caffrey, who brings a physical element to her game as well. I mean, did an excellent job on Darren O'Sullivan the last day as well. And she probably is your go-to man marker when somebody is a threat in front of goal. But look, as to whether Kerry can rely and remember that hurt and stick and believe in how they've been playing, not much needs to change. They just need to be a little bit sleeker maybe at times, not let any lead they have slip in the second half, which has happened in some games at times. Then that could be the winning or breaking of this. I'm sure that's what Dara and Declan will be telling them, and keeping their mind focused on that.
Tell you what, you have the hairs in the back of me next standing up. I'd have you in the dressing room on Sunday, because that's powerful stuff, Michelle. And while, you know, it might sound simplistic, there's a lot in that. You know, there's a lot in that. And look, as you well know from being in dressing rooms in the past, when you're hyped and when you're ready to go, it's those key messages that you want to absorb and take them onto the field of play. Okay, so it's set up for something really, really special. So Caoimhe, you're going to stick with Kerry, I take it, and Michelle, you're not quite sure, are you?
I'm struggling with it, if I'm honest. I've thought all year Kerry. I think if they can maintain their system and their style of play, then I do think they can win this. But I'm urging call. I look. I don't know. It's hard to call. I'm struggling with it, if I'm honest. Wouldn't be surprised if it's a draw. I think, like Caoimhe said, there's some unfinished business from Dublin after that last clash in Parnell Park. There was tension both on and off the field, and she's dead right. Shane Curley will have a job in his hand, and how he referees it is going to be important as well. But if you were to absolutely push me, Jackie, I think maybe the hurt of last year might see Kerry edge it if they can put in an excellent second half performance.
Okay. So we'll see what unfolds. Promises to be really, really good. So we'll have a look at briefly the intermediate and junior finals. Michelle, I'll go to you on the intermediate. It's Clare against Kildare, two teams who have met already twice this year in the Lidl National League. Both very close games. The final in Division 3 went to extra time. Kildare edged it. In a curious quirk of fate, they both played in the 2016 final, their last intermediate final appearance against each other. Kildare won on that occasion. From what you've seen of Clare and Kildare, who's your hunch here, Michelle?
Do you know what? I remember we were doing this last year, Jackie, and I think we were kind of started the All-Ireland campaign, and you asked us to predict who we thought were going to be the final two standing. And last year I said Kildare because they had been going well in the league, and I felt that they were moving well, progressing well, and they failed to achieve that All-Ireland place. And I think this year, obviously, like a very good league campaign, I think maybe there's more grit in them, bit more belief in them. Their style of play is very good. It's moving the ball up the field. Their impact from the bench is actually very good as well in the games I've seen. And having said that, you have some, real stalwarts on the side of Clare who've been playing, like Laurie Ryan, have been playing there with numerous years, well experienced, big days. It's a tough one to call, but I like what I've been seeing from Kildare so far. I really do. I think, like you said, both have experience of being in Croke Park, not in recent years, but they have. Kildare have experience of both losing and winning in Croke Park. And I think I'm edging towards Kildare, if I'm honest. I think I am. I think just having a look at the quality of their games and maybe grinding out results when they needed to, I think maybe their impact off the bench and overall style of play might trouble Clare at times. I think maybe sometimes that Clare have been scrambling back in defence, chasing after players rather than kind of setting up, facing them. And there's some excellent score getters on the Kildare side. So it's slightly sitting for Kildare, in my opinion.
Okay, so Caoimhe, I'll ask you about the junior final, which is down in Limerick. And obviously, unfortunately, from your good self's point of view, Fermanagh won't be there on Sunday. You're a key member of the backroom team that contested the final last year and again reached the semi-final this year. From what you've seen of Limerick and Down, Caoimhe, what's your take on this one? They've met already. Down won by 5 points, I think, in the group stages down in Limerick. Relegated last year, looking to get back at the first attempt. Limerick chasing the first junior since 2018, has the makings of a good game. Call it.
Well, look, having played Down on a couple of occasions this year, I would be pretty confident that Down will win this one. Look, we did play Limerick and we were beaten, and it was a fair result on the day, definitely. We didn't show up, and you get out of it what you put into it, and we just weren't able to perform that day. So Down will have the advantage of being able to watch that game as well, and they'll see that they took on Caoimhe McGrath and she scored 6 points, and she was a wee bit of an unknown. We watched her in a bit of video analysis beforehand, but she really stepped up for Limerick, and I mean, she'll be one that they will marshal. They have Ciara Byrne, who's their vice captain Down, and she's man marker, and as I've said before, it's pivotal that you get all your matchups right, and I'm sure Down will do that. Down have spoken throughout the year about how they don't feel their places in junior, and I mean they've stood by that. Really, they have performed and they have stood up to their critics, and I do think that there's an awful lot of publicity going on. Being in Armagh here, I'm very close to it, and I can see what's going on, and they're pretty confident. Limerick will put up a good fight. They have good players, in a variety of positions across the pitch, so Down will have to be aware of that. They have Ambrose in the middle of the field there, who does an awful lot of work for Limerick. They've an awful lot. Kathy Mee, Deborah Murphy. Deborah Murphy was a real thorn in our side. She plays number 10, but she's everywhere. And Karen O'Leary was excellent in the full forward line as well. So Down will have a lot to do, yes, and it's All-Ireland final day, and we talk about this, teams raise their game to play in Croke Park no matter what, so we can talk about stats all we want, but and you can have your homework done, but it's how you perform on the big stage on that day. And I think Down have a wee bit more experience. They've Megan Doherty there, who's very level-headed. She's a great leader, leads by example. Natasha Ferris, obviously in line for the Golden Boot, great score getter. They have a fantastic midfield in the two Aoifes, Aoife Keown and Aoife Laverty. They really drive Down on. So yeah, look, my head and heart would say Down for this one, but I'm hoping it'll be a good match.
Yeah, should be 3 great games, folks. So thanks for your expert insight, not just today, but across the championship season. To let people know, obviously the games are live on TG4 on Sunday. on linear TV and online across the world, across the globe via TG4. Tickets are on sale as well, ladiesgaelic.ie. You can check out the latest details on that. And over the weekend, if you need to access them, they're on Ticketmaster as well. So the 2023 TG4 All-Ireland Finals coming fast, 11:45 a.m. down against Limerick in the junior, Clare Kildare at 1:45 p.m. and Dublin versus Kerry in the 50th All-Ireland Senior Final at 4 p.m. should be something to savour. Caoimhe Marley Morgan and Michelle Ryan, we may see you at Croke Park on Sunday, all going well. And thank you so much for your time today.
No problem. See you there.